Hey everyone, major breaking news here. This is a very sad story that's coming to us. Lord & Taylor, which is America's oldest department store, their very first department store in America, has announced they're closing all their locations and they will be defunct by 2020-2021. This is a very big deal that we should all take in consideration. I know that Amazon is the way to go now, and I know that a lot of people are doing stuff online, but you need to keep in mind that they were the very first ones to have a department store. The big box change, that started because of them. They were the first ones to do it. And 1826, do you understand how long ago that was? Do you understand how many presidents have been in office since then? Back when Lord & Taylor started, John Quincy Adams, who was best known for his mutton chops and his pet alligator, was the president during that time. Not only that, what also happened was that his father, John Adams, the second president, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson, two of our founding fathers, both died 50 years after the Declaration of Independence was written. And Lord & Taylor is also very known for their boutiques. They were known for their luxury items. They were one of the first ones to get it going. They were the first ones to really popularize it. And they were the first ones, period. As for why it's called Lord & Taylor, it starts back, I have it right here. It starts back when a man by the name of Samuel Lord from England started his business in 1824 for dry goods, and he called it Lord's. But then, his wife's cousin, George Washington Taylor, said, "Hey, I'm willing to help you out, man." And he said, "Sure." And so it became Lord & Taylor. And it was like that until today. And their flagship location was then made in 1846, either one. The famous building was made in the mid-1800s. And it's a work of architecture if you've ever seen it. I don't know whether you've seen it in pictures or you've been to Manhattan. You might have seen the Lord & Taylor building, even if you don't know if it's Lord & Taylor. Because it's there. It's in the Soho neighborhood. It's a really exquisite place. But it's, of course, had some owners over the years, some parent companies. In 1916, I'm right in here. In 1916, at the turn of the century, it announced that it would be sold to Associate Dry Goods, and it was with Associate Dry Goods from 1916 to 1986. But then when the May Department Stores Company decided to acquire Associate Dry Goods in that same year, they saw Lord & Taylor as the ultimate crown jewel. They would put that as a major part of its business, which already included Kaufmann's, Robinson Mays, and a few other brands. But then other things took shape. They've had expansion throughout the years. The malls are becoming more prominent, especially the more upscalers. In fact, I know for myself, as someone who grew up in West Islip, I always knew that Lord & Taylor was a place in the east side of the mall in Westfield South Shore. I'll show you in another vlog down the road. And I know that's where the luxury places were. Even though Bayshore was never really seen as a really rich area, it did show a bit of that class. Hey, we're willing to step in these more Latino communities, and I really like that. I think that even though that you could say, oh, maybe they didn't afford it, the fact of the matter is they were willing to do it, and they've been there for over 20 years because of the people in Bayshore always went there and supported it. And it also gave people, that was also the furthest east on Long Island that you can go. It was the only one in Suffolk County that you had. That's why a lot of people in the county went there, because it's the only place where they can go for Lord & Taylor, especially before the .com bubble happened and before the internet. But they were a little bit behind that. Then in 2005, they were bought by Federated Department Stores, which owns Macy's and Bloomingdale's, now called Macy's Inc. And then just 1 year later, they said they were going to turn all the stores into Kaufman, all the Kaufmans, Robinson's May, Marshall Fields, what have you. They would all turn them into Macy's or maybe even Bloomingdale's. And that's why you see Macy's in so many malls, and there's still a lot of anger over that to this very day. But there was one brand that was salvaged through all this, and this was Lord & Taylor, partially because of their age and also because there was some conflict of philosophies with that and Bloomingdale's. So, okay, you don't want to get bought? Fine. So then NRDC Equity Partners, which was an equity firm, I'm looking at right here, an equity firm, just looking at right here, sorry, an equity firm, NDC Equity Partners, private ownership, that became their parent company until they acquired the Hudson's Bay Company, which is even older than Lord & Taylor, but going back 350 years ago. You know the Hudson's Bay Fur Company? That's Hudson's Bay for you. That's the same Hudson's Bay that was around since 1670. So you're putting up some old competition with some old, and it just felt like a perfect marriage in a way. They're Canadian too, so they got him beat. I mean, but hey, Lord & Taylor was the first American one, so it's at least pretty cool. But things were getting kind of bad for Lord & Taylor still. They still had a lot of debt. Even with all the expansion they had prior to that, it started getting a little bit uglier. There was also a hacking incident that happened in 2018. They also became the sister company of Saks Fifth Avenue after Hudson's Bay acquired them in 2017, and they became one of the same company. That was pretty cool. Like in the mall in Huntington, which is in Nassau County, upscale mall, Walt Whitman shops. They have the Lord & Taylor and the Saks, along with a Macy's and a Bloomingdale. So two different companies have the 4 spots, but that wouldn't be the case for much longer, as Lord & Taylor was continuing to just falter. Hudson's Bay was having a lot of debt as well. And so they were searching for a buyer. And at the same time, they replaced the classic script logo of Lord & Taylor. They had some logo changes across the years, but nothing was as bad as that weird corporate box logo. Like, ugh. Like, that's not going to turn people on. It doesn't feel as fancy. I get the reasoning, but it wasn't the right move. But then they sold it to a younger company, La Tote. La Tote, if I recall, I think that's also in bankruptcy too. Yes, they I'm looking at it right here. They did file for bankruptcy. They've been around since 2012, and they thought maybe to get their hold in the retail business, they could acquire Lord & Taylor. That ended up not working out so well for them because a lot of the debt is still with Hudson's Bay. They did revert back to the old script logo though. I'm good with that, but at the same time, that's just aesthetic. How's the business actually doing? And that was the case for Lord & Taylor. And of course, with the pandemic, Lord & Taylor already not doing so well. So along with J.Crew, JCPenney, they announced we're filing for Chapter 11. And start hearing some news that Lord & Taylor is going out of business entirely. They're going to close all their stores. And even though I reported on it, they said, oh, that's not going to happen. But there was definitely more to it than what they wanted to say, because the Twitter was inactive, the Facebook was inactive, even the website was inactive. Nothing was working. People were scared. Like, is it done for Lord & Taylor? But then they said there was an issue, that they're doing fine, there's nothing wrong. Okay, we'll take your word for it. But then they announced they're filing for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and they're like, oh, so maybe there's a sign there after all. And then they said that they were going to be closing the one, including the one in Bayshore that I mentioned about, and also the one in Huntington. So that means the closest one you have to go to is all the way in Garden City, which is right by Hempstead, which is not very convenient for people in Suffolk County, especially the more wealthy people over in the out east. But today, they decided that they were going to be pulling the plug soon, as La Tote announced that they would be shutting down all Lord & Taylor's locations. Very, very, very sad event. But they did try to make it work. They literally tried to put Lord & Taylor literally tried to put their stuff on Walmart. Dead serious. Like, Walmart literally sold Lord & Taylor items for a little while, but that did not work well. And they even sold their flagship location. Amazon, believe it or not, owns it now. How ironic is that? And crazy too. But again, following George Floyd protests, a lot of the places were also looted and burglarized. But it's sad. The website's going to be closing, so even if you wanted to they announced the website's going to be closing too, so they're not even doing online. It's gone. It's done for good. there's opportunities, but it's the end of Lord & Taylor. And it hurts me to say this as someone who, believe it or not, before I want to be a journalist, I want to be an architect for malls. But then I quickly jumped shifts because I was always into Connects, I was always into Lego, I was always big into building things and experimenting with things and bringing people in. But then more stores were going out of business, Toys R Us, Borders, and I said, I can't do this, so I jumped ship to journalism. And what do you know? My professor, Carl Coulanges, teachers, noticed me, said, hey, do you want to be part of the radio station? And I said yes, and it kind of brought me all the way right here at Hofstra. So if anything, if these stores didn't go out of business, I probably wouldn't be here right now, honestly. If everything that happened in my life didn't happen, I would not be here speaking to you. And even though it's very sad to see Lord & Taylor announce that they'll be closing all their stores, we will always know that they will always be an essential part of the history of business in America and a true enforcer and a true pioneer to the malls. And that is something that no one will ever take away from them because they've earned that right. It's very sad to see them go. It's very heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. It is very sad. I cried, honestly, but you're not going to be the only ones. Pier 1 also announced it too. But this really strikes a chord. Even if JCPenney says that they've never been as long as Lord & Taylor. Like, it says a lot when they've been around for that long. It's nearly impossible to do. Very few were able to do it. And honestly, congrats Lord & Taylor for being able to make it this far. You should be applauding yourself. Even though that it had a very sad ending, nothing lasts forever. John Lord would be very proud of you, and so would Taylor. Both of them would have been very, very impressed for what everyone that followed them was able to do with the business. Even with all these ownerships, they still respected Lord & Taylor. They still wanted to keep it afloat. They knew the importance of it. They knew. They tried to, but eventually they had to pull the plug. It had to be done. And as hard as that is for me to say, that a place that stretched across to not only have the East Coast is closing for good, I will always cherish them as a part of my life. I will always cherish them as a part of my history and my livelihood and my upbringing. Even though I went to Sears more when I was little, I always passed by Lord & Taylor. It was always there. And who knows what's going to happen with these locations? Are they going to turn into distribution centers for Amazon? Could some of them turn into movie theaters? What else could happen? Are these going to be vacant like a lot of other places? I hope not, but that could be the case because no one's really acquiring that much stuff during the pandemic. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. So what was your experience with Lord & Taylor? I know that were there many Lord & Taylors in the West Coast? If there were, please let me know. Also, if you had any experience with Lord & Taylor, what was it like for you? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? I want to know your stories. And please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Zenny62 Media and go visit oaklandnewsnow.com. Please turn your notification on to make sure you get every notification for every video that we make in store. Take care of you guys, and again, stay safe. Everyone in Louisiana, I want to say again, stay safe.